Right, so it's the 29th of October 2024, and I'm not in a very fucking happy mood this morning, because this has been going on since Morgan's moved there, although I can't guarantee it's him that's causing it. But someone won't flush the loo, and they're causing the smell of strong shit, even with the windows open. And the fan's going, you can't get rid of it, and I'm stuck with it. But the problem is I can't sleep in the toilet room because the burning's occurring from energy weapons. So I've got two choices: burn from energy weapons, or have to fucking struggle to go to sleep all fucking night from the smell of shit. And there's a whole list of fucking problems as well. The banging from one specific neighbour is really bad right through the whole night. Anything from claiming that I molested Sadie to you having a fucking break-in, you're being fucking knifed down, you're a fucking child rapist, and a couple of gunshot sounds as well. Right, to continue the problems, it's extremely difficult to get my fucking say today because there's so much fucking action being fucking pelted at me. But what I wanted to say is Peter's behaviour last night, anything from banging to breaking in, to saying that you molested Sadie, to you're being shot dead, you're having your life taken, you're losing all your stuff, you're having a fucking break-in, or being injected with HIV, is the worstest I've known him to behave for a long, long time. This is going right from the start of the evening, basically. Right through, it's just been a really, really bad night. 7 o'clock this morning, he was actually banging. I don't know the reason for this, but he's absolutely losing his temper. And then obviously you've got some blank-fired gunshots that are occurring as well, as I mentioned. Anyway, dribbling bow whistles to start the day. I mean, there's 5 or 6 pages of just what I want to mention, but let's get to this, shall we? So I just mentioned the first problem. Right, Seagull says burglary, ha ha ha. And then there's banging. Obviously the smell of shit goes away for a short period of time, and then there's another load of shit smell that occurs within 10 minutes later. Gonna fucking smash him in, sick cunt, Justin said. Being busted, said. Choked by catalytic converter stench. When I leave to go out. Cell call at me, red learner car, pure cremation van, black, grey, white, flower vision van, spit talk hits my eye several times, black sexual car, blue, red, Mitchell Delver van, yes van, ambulance, red, Riggs van, cell call begins next to me, spit talking over me, Habry van, black learner car, bonus of motorbikes, red sexual car. There's about 500 cars in the midst of all this, plus 90% to every car on the road. More spit talk hits my eye, 2 loud bikes with flashing lights my way, and Flash These Babies t-shirt. The next bit of bad news I want to mention is I reported this to staff at supported housing, all these problems that occurred last night. Everything's being put down to schizophrenia. I'm not very fucking happy about that, and all they're doing is telling me to get a fucking dosage of my medication down my fucking throat, or saying you're taking your medication. All they want to do is hit me off, give me medication to fucking knock me off. They've made the suggestion with this, with the setups that are occurring either yesterday or the day before, whenever it was it last occurred recently. They just want me fucking rid off. That's what they want me fucking writ off. And because the medication they give you is a dangerous type of medication that fucks your body up and rots your fucking liver and takes you to pieces, you know, it actually makes you lose your strength, it does everything, it just makes you really ill. And they're telling me, get a fucking taste of that, shut your fucking face, we'll just let the fucking problems continue, just shut your fucking face, get out our fucking way, we can't be bothered to do fuck all, fuck you, just get your fucking medication down your fucking throat, hope you fucking die. That's their fucking attitude towards it all. Incidentally, I've arrived at my place of where I want to go today, but the problem is the sun's out, so the picture that I wanted to take I can't do until the cloud's over. And it's been sunny for the whole morning, yet on the weather forecast they've lied once again. We had this all day yesterday where it's sunny, and this is why I've had to come back today. And it's the same again today, yet they've put on the forecast that it's been cloudy all day with rain. Right, so I've got a load of animal sounds at the moment, anything for saying that I should be having sex or enjoying sex with someone who sexually abused me as a child, to having a break-in and making your life misery. That's the creator God for you. One, evil, malicious, cruelty, sex, slaughtering, ice axing, fire, staking, malicious, fucking tear apart, evil bastard. The creator God is just an absolute nasty bastard. Right, as soon as I push stop on the recording, the crow makes a sly Obviously the government want to put me into execution, as they say on this t-shirt that says put the plot into execution. So obviously they need to put need to be fucking buckled fucking cunts and need to put fucking phone calls in my direction. All yesterday and the day before and day before that or whatever, it's timing people to sneeze in my fucking face every few seconds. Well, I'm stuck here doing absolutely nothing because I'm waiting for the sun for a cloud to cover so that I can take the fucking picture that I need to take a picture of, because the government need the sun out to take the fucking piss, to be spiteful little bastards controlling the weather system using modern technology. Right, it's not a case of waiting for the cloud to cover the sky, it's a case of waiting for the sky to open into a blue sky, and that's exactly what's happening. So yeah, the government have fucked up. Yes, it's a blue car. The government have fucked it up, completely fucked up my day again, so I've got to go back on the next bus. Right, so if I can get a fucking say, all I'm getting is slammed down my fucking throat is I'm a fucking child rapist and paedophile, and I've just killed a fly. So what? It's murder, Christ. If I want to kill a fly, I'll kill a fly. Yeah, so what, Christ? And it's just getting revenge to make you fucking know that I'm not fucking happy with it, Christ. Everything you fucking do is spiteful. Your fucking creation, your works against me is all fucking nasty. And I'm getting pissed off of it, because I had hardly any sleep last night because of it. Yes, Crow. Yes, I need to sex people that raped me as a child. I need to do this. We need to do that. I need to be knifed down. I need to be accused of raping Sadie when I've never had sex with her. I need to be shot dead. I need to be knifed. Nothing you can do about it. The creator's a crooked, cruelty, fucking tearaway. So I've been here for 15 minutes now, waiting for, well, it's a blue sky sexual day. So what? It's nice, good life pictures. Very high up pictures, you know, posh pictures, like these posh balconies. Very snobby, very posh. Nice for the rich, yeah. Okay, I've got a rich mind, I've got to be with a posh, smart mind, and a smart sex phone, but nothing I can do about it. The buckled fucking bastards are forcing me into a fucking extremely good life, with good life sex and all the rest of it. Yes, I've had good life sex. I've had good sex with people that raped me as a child. That's a very good life, Christ. You fucking twisted, hell-bent bastard. Right, so I've been here 20 minutes, and just a load of vehicles, bikes to erections, people laughing at me, people wondering what I'm doing. One person was passing me, asking what am I doing, saying you've been here for about 25 minutes. So I had to explain, I'm trying to wait for the sun to go down to try and get a picture of something. You don't actually need, you just need the sun to be away on this specific picture rather than anything else. But the government can't allow it. They need that blue sky and they need that sun out, alright? You fucking buckle. Yes, my willy's going very fucking high up over a bike's Downing Street. Or creator God, whoever's this spiteful bastard that's causing my life to be fucked up and maliciously taking me to fucking pieces. Right, so, yes, Willy Up bike. Yeah, I've lost the registration plate of the threat because of Willy Up bike. Oh, bike. A Crow saying fuck, I won't say the word that it's saying, but we got that as well. And this is tied to a tingling bell end, itchy bell end. Penis shoots up. They need to do this because the government is making this. Oh, look, a big blue sky. Ah, son! You fucking buckled, twisted cunt, Christ. There's a very fine line of cloudy weather, but I can't get the picture because they're stacking the fucking traffic on me. Right, so we've had about 300 cars in the last, hang on, just to get it, see if I can get it. No, next car. Yeah, they're stacking it, they need to do this. The sun's out, yes, the sun's out Downing Street. Well, it's only failing today, so I'm going to have to give up. The weather's too bright, that's the problem. You had the bit of thin layer of cloud, but it's a bright day. It's bright weather. It's bright days Downing Street. It's a sexual day. It's a very sexy day. Yes, when I have sex with people that rape me as a child, it's sexy. That's right. It's a blue sky sunny day Downing Street. Babri, oh Babri, smashed over fucking drain. My life's down the drain. It's funny Downing Street. It's very funny, it's hilarious, you're laughing, you're politicians, you got a laughing armchair van, My willy shoots up for a motorbike revving, busting in. I'm going to keep this on record, I want to see how spiteful the fucking creator God is. Fucking malicious fucking tearaway. Sexual slaughter cunt. Must have bet that bike's coming in this direction, it'd be timed as well. I notice the road suddenly goes quiet down in the street. Yes, it's timed. There we are. My Willie's very high down in the street. Four Abri vans as well. So my penis has gone up for a bicycle only with a flashing babes, a flashing light, and blue sexual. I push record because there's some animal sounds trying to tell me to fuck someone. So I'm going to keep it on record just for a few seconds. Every time you push record it comes to a sudden stop because the Creator God knows, and the Creator God wants to be a spiteful little bastard and disguise it in a mischievous fucking sneaky way, because the Creator God's just a cruel fucking tearaway, fucking nasty bastard. Right, so my Willie goes up 3 bikes. I'm choked by catalyst. Right, I stepped out of traffic because they're trying to stop me getting evidence of animal voice sounds. I've forgotten what I said now. You're getting stabbed, you're getting a break in. That's what a bird is saying. It comes to a stop when I push record. Colgar van, learner car, and I've put several other cars like black and blue or what you fucking name it. Timed as a push stop on the recording, bird says you molest a kid. Yes, I molested a person that raped me as a child. So that's a kid, not a man, it's a kid. And it's black sexual car. White sexual car. Right, so birds are telling me that the guts didn't come out. So what's happened is, when I was being raped as a child, the guts came so far out of me, but God wanted it to come completely out where it's not out completely. And because it didn't come out, Jesus is saying he's ripping me to fucking pieces, like the government is saying. You're being slight, you're having your fucking wrist cut, you're being fucking taken to pieces, because you wouldn't enjoy the sex of being raped as a child. Well, I was enjoying the sex being raped as a child. I was forcing my guts out to enjoy sex being raped as a child. But the problem is, God wanted me to come right out, alright? Because God is buckled. It's the way he wants to work it. And so he's telling the seagulls and birds to tell me that I'm being ripped to fucking pieces, going to the fire of hell, because I won't get the guts in and out of me completely. Right, so I'm being choked out by catalytic converter. It's not as bad as what it was earlier, because when I went to take a picture of the signpost, they stepped on fucking setups. Right, spit talk by granny hits my lip. Cell calls begin. Push chair on the bus at me gun, looking on the car roof, timed. Black and blue, timed, loads of sick. Knife. Bomb looking, white, red, bonus a bike, black and blue, red, timed. Lots more Somerset Ways partnership, timed, Anna Hurst, my way, and then that, bow whistles, and sick blue car timed to hit me, not hit me, hit the bus I'm on, sorry. Gun looking on car roof again, bow whistles, penis up motorbike, black and fucking blue white. Shoot dead pose, sick white police car, spit, talk, sneeze, or whatever. Wet hits my wrist and lip. Black and blue white, orange sexual. Buggies my way. Sick white timed. Direct hit van and motherland van. Sick white, sex. Penis up motorbike, 8 times out bike, cucked, lorry. Choked by catalyst, hoarders. Time going to the window, paedophile just busting in, said, a buggy, 3-person buggy, a buggy, At the bus station, penis have 8 times loud bike and spit talking at me. Sneezed up with a wet sneeze, robbery looking, bow whistles, gap top, bonus a motorbike time buggy, he shot dead paedophile's head, blade van, playboy top, simmer frame angled at me, knife him dead said from someone outside. I didn't hear this person say it, the movement of his lip applied it. Cellcorn passes at the right bus stops that I'm on. PPD van, Griffin's van, red sexual car tied, black and blue sick, white sexual, whatever. Another 200 of them, or just under. 17 texts. Orange sexual car, grey sexual car, bonus and motorbike light on, and sexual black car, and a dad van. They're all with lights on, by the way. Rubbery looking black vehicle that says brakes on the side of it, and FK, I won't say the 3-letter word, there's no need for that, but there is actually a van that says that. Big wheels van, Turner's, what's right. Just come to fucking pieces t-shirt. Phlegm flies near me by someone with a dryish cough where phlegm just flies out, and it flies a distance as well. Choked my coughed over, moved my head, and someone outside moves their head as to say I'm going to stab you with HIV. Obviously when it's murder you have to use weed killer because that's not a coward substance, or brake fluid or bleach or whatever, or snake venom. It was cheaper to do it the other way, but Reco van, fast speeding knife looking car my way, grey sexual car with light on, white sick blue sexual car with one light out, struck one van, spelt STRUKE1, smashed glass looking lorry stops and getting past, flat knife shaped, roadkill, that's a roadkill van, very fast van, time to go van, that's time to go as in time, number 2 and then go, government t-shirt, he's a dead child molester, yet Savan said when that's not my name, Crow says yet being beat up and choked by Catalyst and all these cars. Right, next loader said I was choked by Catalyst, break-in said extreme Catalyst, extreme more 300 cars, black and blue, 6 sexual, mostly all of them. He's sick, bash his teeth in said, smashed glass looking vehicle. Crow says already had sex with Amy Weston when I haven't. Abbey electrical van, spit talk hits my eye cheek. JJ van, bonus a bike, gun looking on car roof, black and blue white, fart smell, red sexual car. Duffields and then Duffields again. Green, black and blue. Bonus a motorbike. Red white, black and blue, grey white, grey sexual light on. Grey sexual with a light on, time to smash into the public transport I'm on. Cheering van, 2 texts, being injected with HIV syringe. So, well, like I said, that's coward substance. If you want to commit murder, you do it properly with brake fluid, weed killer, bleach, you name it. Bow whistles, penis up, so motorbike, black and blue, grey, purple, knife shaped. Your way, I'd said. White sexual, 3-wheel bike, motorbike to my way. Massive road, black and blue, red sick. White 7 van, sorry. Wayne's lorry. Black and blue, white top edge van, direct, grey, Somerset Waste Partnership. Milk van, Simply Serve van, Tesco van. Well, they messed up on that, it's too late Downing Street. They only mentioned the only sex I'm going to get earlier on. Right, Abry van, chicken pox, looking car. Sexual black, sexual blue time. Phone rings nearest to me. John Beatty van, coughs over me back. Shore Heat Solutions, God's sake. Bonus, oh right, yes, okay. Right, I'm being controlled by a fucking catalyst. Go to crossover, and then it reverses and goes that way. Boner, clean van, motorbike. Hodders, Somerset Waste Partnership. Abry, grey, sexual, white, grey. Right, I've lost the sheet to what I was initially going to mention. I can't find it. and I've had to delete the recording, and I lost the information there because unfortunately a crow very clearly told me to fuck a specific name, and I don't want to cause trouble, so I'm not going to say what it is, but because of the clarity of the way the animal was talking and how clear it was, I couldn't keep the recording because it would cause trouble. Anyway, a wet hard sneeze at me. This is the second sheet from the one I lost. Tight coughs over me. Bonus a bike, white sexual car, catalytic converter control, red sexual, grey. Eating something means catalytic converter control. Penis up motorbike, crow. Again, I can't say. Actually, I can't remember what it said actually on that one. Fuck something. There's more bike issues. 22 more loud bikes to erections. Dog barks, sick cunt, bash him in. Several dog sounds. Bloody pervert busting in. More bike issues. Child rapist said. Sick cunt stab him end of this year. Shoot dead said. More threats, just conversations. I can't remember what they were because I was on the phone to someone because I was waiting for a phone call. Crow says shoot dead next year, not here just. While passing the house and this occurred at the same time, someone wears a t-shirt saying the real world of violence, and then there's a laughing politician on the TV as I was looking through someone's window as I passed that window. Right. You're dead, hit dead just, said. No, by the crow, sorry. Right, so next load of problems. I won't say what the crow said. Then there's, crow says so sad, just bow whistles. There's a lot of animal voice sounds. Whereas animal says not well, no, yeah, not well, shot dead. Bonus 10 times loud bike tying to an itchy, tingling bumhole. Yeah, very personal. Yeah, not happy about it. I mean, I don't like, this is something that I'd be embarrassed to ever mention in the past, but I'm getting so pissed off about it that this sort of information's being mentioned, because, you know, I get fucked off with it, really fucked off. That specific bike is timed after. Yeah, this is ridiculous when it comes to mentioning all this sort of stuff. Being nice, child molester, raspberry, vaping, smell, shot dead, Savan, strange, said, my name's not Savan, but got to be mistaken as that person, there's no choice. Crow says, knifing you dead, Justin, dangerous pedo, owl, well, horn type noises. Crow says, being beat up, dangerous child molester. A dog snarls at me and growls at me until the owner calls it. It got very close to being bit, but luckily it didn't come to that. Well, I didn't see anyone coming, so I had to stop what I was mentioning. A couple of people passed saying even 200 miles away, people are saying it's him, the child rapist Savan, when that's not my name, so there must be shit stirring with a person that looks like me 200 miles away, which is not good. I mean, everywhere I go in the UK, basically there's going to be trouble, I take it. I just quickly want to run down on something I saw on the internet recently regarding music. Before I go into what's good and what isn't, I'm just going to go give you a sample of the decades of the music that came out in that time period. So if we start off with the classical scene, and where people were playing music by themselves, which was even included in Victorian times. You then had the music box. Again, it wasn't a very cheerful music box when it came to the Porta Regina music box, but you did have the gramophone and the 78 Bakelite records, and there was a lot of jazz, ballroom or whatever back in that time period, which was very cheerful, which is like squirky voices and jazz, and but very cheerful. It was very cheerful. So that's the start of the very cheerful music. That went into the 30s, the 1930s. When you came into the 1940s, it got a little bit deeper, but it wasn't much deeper as you went into the rock and roll, like stuff like tracks like Bill Haley and the Comets, or if you think about tracks before then, Up the Hop. Trying to think, there's not sure of many tracks. Glenn Miller, In the Mood. So you had tracks like that, and then obviously in the 50s it became a bit more dreamy, maybe, with Dean Martin and doing like Memories Are Made Like This, or Frankie Lane, Cool Water, Adam Faith, What Do You Want. Then obviously as Poor Me came into the start of the 60s, and then obviously 63 you had some deep sort of tracks, taking that area out, and you had Nights in White Satin by the Moody Blues in 69 or 67, I can't remember the year. So you had a few tracks, but the overall 60s decade was actually happy, jolly, good life, sexual music. When you come into the 70s, it was a lot more easy listening, deeper, and they started to put better sound in music. So sort of the sound was more quality, or you get the sort of taste of sound in the music. 1980, let's get to 78, 79, because you had a lot of dark classical coming out at that time as well, when it came to film music. And then obviously when you got very deep in 1981, there's a few tracks, but it was 81, there was a lot of tracks, like the Specials, Ghost Town and Stranglers, Golden Brown and Ultravox Vienna, and I can't remember now. There's quite a few tracks in 81 that are like that. 82 was not so deep. It picked up again in 83. 84 onwards you had stuff like The Foreigner, I Want to Know What Love Is, and you had also somewhere in that, I can't remember when it was released, Toto Africa, and then you had another good track in 1981 was Godley and Cream, Under Your Thumb, and then also obviously you had Queen and David Bowie, Under Pressure, and right through until the late 80s. And you had the Euro house scene that existed in the mid 80s. The very first jungle track, old school jungle track, was made in 1989, but it wasn't released until 1991, and that's Lenny D. Ice, We Are IE. Techno is slightly older than the Euro house scene, but its developing form is a lot different. It can be heard in Ultravox Vienna. They say that could be the staple point of where techno first developed or existed. Obviously it would have sounded different to techno we have today, or where it changed in 1985. But as soon as we hit the 90s, that's sort of when the sort of electronica kicked off. Techno, jungle, house, garage, they all sort of really took off in the underground scene, but because it's underground, it's not seen as being a mainstream category of music. So you have to look at the stuff that was in the charts. So basically in the early 90s you had the rave scene, like Cookie Jar Rave, stuff like Shame and Ebenezer Good, or Prodigy, Out of Space, or Ascend, Trip to the Moon, which is not my sort of music at all, but and then obviously we went into like the dance music, then into like Dance to the Max, Mr. Vane, Culture Beat, Snap, A Rhythm Is a Dancer, Baby D, Let Me Be Your Fantasy, be sort of old school rave that's in the charts. So you had a couple of tracks that were commercial. When you hit 1994, you had a lot of reggae in that specific year, and jungle came commercial in that year. That one year in particular, no other time, but that one specific year, old school jungle was commercial as well, and it even got in the album charts. There are many different albums that they released, and a lot of them they'd be advertised on radio shows, TV, you name it. They even had pirate radio stations where they play stuff. So the more commercial albums you had back then would have been the Ultimate Jungle Collection, the Jungle Mania series, the Drum and Bass Selection series, the Hard Leaders series, Jungle Techno, I'm not sure if I mentioned that actually. What did I mention? You had Jungle Business, the Jungle Hits, the Jungle Massives. I could go on forever mentioning what was in the charts in 1994, album charts. Some of those are not actually in the top 100 album charts, but they were commercial CDs going back in time. When we reached the year of 1994, later on, the same year, there's a lot of changes in just a matter of a couple of years where the music was different. You had the happy hardcore scene come in, though it didn't really kick off until 1995, which is like techno beat music with distorted beats. There's like mixed with jungle, the shallow jungle amens, or certain amens that they use in jungle music as a backing source for the construction of happy hardcore music. As that was occurring, the jungle scene became a lot more commercial with the reggae type of tracks. But back in the mid-1990s, they didn't really release many ragamuffin jungle CDs, because obviously it wouldn't sell basically with the types of tracks that were ragamuffin. Obviously there's a lot of ragamuffin that did go on these CDs, but you need to share it out with a mixture of deep jungle, dark jungle, specialised jungle, the rare groove jungle with a breakdown part in it like Dope Travelling Part 2 or Rev P 1994 or DJ Panic Revelation or Intense Time Space Continuum. You know, you need one of those tracks now and again if you're going to sell an album back in those days, because you needed a selection for all types of listeners when it came to that, not just one specific style. So if you've got someone like Jungle, they'd have to put like something for everyone on the CD, not just strictly for one specific mindset. Obviously when it came to the more underground stuff, it was more limited, and it would be very rare. You might only get one track on a CD or one track on a mix tape when it's a commercial mixtape. However, if it's an illegal rave tape, the whole tape would be just that one specific underground type sounding music. Anyway, in 1996, jungle sort of had a change to it, so it sort of developed into a sort of a drum and bass pattern, but it didn't change that much, and most people were sort of sticking to their original form, and then you had good looking records that are trying to add new age samples in jungle and soulful jazz in it and vocals and you name it. And it went on for a bit. Eventually you had this new law come in, and in 1997, I think it was the 2nd of May 1997, the government enforced copyright from people sampling from old pieces of music, meaning that they had to pay the record companies or the producers to mix their material in with the music that they're making. The bad news is Sadie Dando's birthday is also on the 2nd of May 1997, when she was born, which is someone I've been accused of trying to have sex with when I haven't. And the first drum and bass track that took place, or the first producers to make the new stuff, was Nampi and Swift, who were two drum and bass producers that started to jump up from that time onwards. Obviously they were probably producing that new stuff before, or they had some idea that something was going to change in the music industry before they stopped that specific, before they stopped the sampling of old music or whatever without paying for copyright. So they might have had some form of knowledge, and they thought they'd go their own way, and obviously they were the producers of the newer drum and bass. From that time onwards, drum and bass, jungle or whatever, has never been the same. You've had the occasional track come out here and there. There's one track that's really, really good that's in that old school style. In actual fact, there's two. There's Well Beloved, and the track is called Immortal, and it's on 7th Story Projects recordings, and the other one is on Scientific Wax recordings, which is called Dub 1, and the track is called Snow. And they're two really good tracks that are designed in the old school style. But as far as any other stuff goes, there's not many tracks, and it's very far and few between if they release any. And when they do release anything that's old, they've got to be careful, because they're restricted on how many copies they can sell and how many they can release. And it's all budget funding as well from DJs or fundings when they sort of produce these records, and they're not allowed to put it on CD. They can only put it on a record or a USB stick. So I'm not quite sure why they're not allowed to put it on a CD, because but they are allowed to put it on a USB stick. Or it could be because of the costs, or it could be because nobody wants CDs, or because people download it or prefer USB sticks. It could be that as well. But anyway, let's get into 1997 as an overall music. So it's mostly R&B, happy, jolly music. It wasn't great, but it was a lot of soul at the same time. 1998 was sort of, there's some football tunes in that sort of area, quite happy, jolly football tunes, but there was also some good sounding football tunes that you could get in the mood to, as it was happy, but in a different form of happy. Not like the happy, shallow sounding tracks, got a bit of depth to the sound, or some quality to the sound. A bit like Derry O.G., Carnival Dupree, and what's the other one? Sunshine. As an example. Moving on to 1998, 99 and the year 2000, it's sort of club tunes, so they're trying to get people out of the underground scene, and a lot of people were into the happy hardcore at that time, and then it sort of progressed into hardstyle when we come into the 2000s, and then obviously you had the birth of the commercial hip-hop, where you've always had hip-hop, it's always sort of been around, but it was made very commercial in the year 1999 onwards, 2000, 2001, that sort of area. And that's the same music that's the same sort of music as it is today. But back then it was sort of hotter tracks, all the hot shit, and they had more depth and more sound to it, where they're making the tracks a lot more shallower these days. However, when it comes to the mainstream, taking away the hip hop scene, because they are going to do away with the hip hop scene, it's basically pop music that's just very cheesy and very happy, right through basically since the year 2001. However, even before then, tracks weren't great. I mean, any commercial music really from the sort of 1995 onwards is a load of crap anyway. I mean, I was thinking some of the house tracks of sort of 1995 were boring, but when you look back on them and thinking to yourself modern music and comparing those house tracks, you do notice a difference. You think to yourself, oh, I wish I preferred that track back then, But back then, music was made a lot more deeper and a lot more soulful. So it's definitely different, and obviously there was one time period where it started to touch a bit deep again, where you had Kid Cudi and the Crookers, Day and Night, and you had can't remember who sang it, but a track called Promiscuous. You also had the Saturdays, a track called Issues, Chantel, Impossible, and tracks like that in a specific time period. And obviously a couple of kind of hip hop tracks. You had Eminem, No Love, or I think it's Kanye West, Supernova, where you had a few tracks, but they weren't really. They're a bit like Pure Tone, really. If you look at Pure Tone's breakup song, or like the group that did Addicted to Bass or whatever back in 2001 area and stuff like that, it's sort of, there's not really much change. It's sort of is a lot more happier. I mean, you have Black Eyed Peas, Where Is the Love, in sort of the same time period as Addicted to Bass, and you know, and then later on you have Razorlight America, and it sort of went on basically. But it's always sort of been in an area where it's sort of more cheerful. I can get into stuff like up to Razorlight America. You had James Blunt, he did a few tracks, but they're not really my sort of music. Sadie Dando and Ricky Hux used to love, because obviously Ricky Hux used to go into Sadie's bedroom and stay over or whatever, and she loves that specific group, or that singer, James Blunt. I'm not keen on really much commercial music. I don't mind Razorlight, but James Blunt I'm not too keen on. I sort of maybe liked it a little bit back in time when I first heard it, because it played so frequently. But 2001's a stopping point for me when it comes to modern music. There's some tracks that my brother has played and some of his mates used to listen to. I can just about get onto those tracks. But after that, that's it basically. So that takes you from the start of the classical scene before the 78 round per minute records, the Bakelite came into existence and so on, right through to the pop music of today. So that's that part. So let's now talk about the happiest, jolliest and most sexual music decades since music sort of began in an industrial revolutionary world, you know, sort of starting from when the music box came in basically, you know, into Victorian times through basically. So you had the obviously the Porta Regina music box of the 1800s, and obviously again that's still sort of in the older period of time. You had the like people playing classical music, maybe the piano, the violin, choosing their own tracks, though a lot of people did prefer the soul from the classical music back then, so it wasn't really the happiest, jolliest sexual music that you'd have. And obviously many people say how depressing the Porta Regina music box sounds, but you know, back then that would have been cheerful music. You wouldn't have noticed a difference. It's only because we've been brought up into more happier music in a modern time that you're noticing the change of older music not being very happy. So firstly it's the 1920s sort of period, maybe 1910s, I'm not sure, and it's sort of up until about the 1930s. You had a mixture of ballroom, you had a lot of jazz, especially on the Bakelite, and it's like jazz like and sort of singing like that, squirky singing, and very happy, jolly sort of sounds, where it sounds like you could picture from the sort of music you had then of horses running around on a race course or stuff like that. So it's sort of like that sort of music, and it's quite happy, jolly, sexual, good life music. You can actually hear this sort of music being played in one of Aleister Crowley's videos on YouTube, who's the world's most wickedest man, who slaughtered and had sex with 150 young boys per year before killing them. How accurate that information is, I do not know, but that's what the conspiracy theorists are saying on the internet. And how he got away with all that, I do not know. But then again, if he's a Freemason and a 90-degree Mason, obviously that's not the highest Mason. The highest in Masonry is 360 degrees. And these are the people that work with noetic science, technology, and know all the advanced things and whatever else. And know the connections between God and the astral worlds and whatever else, and how to connect and how to move from one destination to another through portals and stuff like that. Anyway, let's get back to music. So obviously when you went into the 1940s you had stuff like Glenn Miller in the Mood, stuff like that. So there was a bit of it was a bit deeper, not as happy as the jazzy stuff of what I just mentioned from the 1920s or whatever. And obviously, but it was still happy. It's more sort of bar music you play in a bar. So obviously when you hit the 50s it starts to get a bit dreamier, So you have stuff like Dean Martin, Memories Are Made Like This, and Frankie Lane, Cool Water, Big Bad John, I think it was a 50s track. You had the Everly Brothers even, that did the track Dream, 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 Dream. Yeah, I think that's a 50s track. And then obviously, when you come into the 60s, apart from the first 3 years, I recall 62 and 63 having a lot of soul in it, or swinging type of 60s music. But when you sort of reach after that sort of time period, say 64 to the end, then it's basically happy, jolly, good life, sexual music for most of the 60s decade. You did have the Moody Blues, Nights in White Satin, which was quite a dreamy track, which is quite deep, which is at the end of the 60s. And obviously, in other genres, a lot of it was quite cheerful. It's just a cheerful decade in general. It's the 60s. I mean, you had stuff like the Hippie Hippie Shake by the Swinging Blue Jeans, I think it is, and then you have Manfred Mann, 5 4 3 2 1, and the Scaffold, Lily the Pink. That's just an example of what I mean by cheerful sexual music of the 60s, which is not really my sort of music at all. When you hit the 70s, you went into some easy listening and some very deep soul tracks, and then they started to put some quality sound in the music in a developing form, in the same way they were putting the underground tracks together in the techno scene and the jungle scene in the mid-90s and the early 90s, up until the mid-90s, sorry. Come the late 70s, obviously it wasn't a sexual year, but there was sexual tracks, even though the tracks might have not been made as cheesy as what it was in the 60s. You did have some tracks, a bit like I think it's Blondie, I Feel Love, I'm not sure, I'm trying to think who does it, I've forgotten. There's I get confused on several tracks like Baccarat, Yes Sir I Can Boogie, I think there was you had Heart of Glass, that was Blondie, wasn't it? And then you had I Feel Donna Summer, that's it. So you know, you had sort of tracks that were sexual, but they weren't shallow, light-headed, cheesy tracks as such. Late 70s was dark classical film music, and they started experimenting with dark music. After the dark period of the 1970s, the late 70s, you went into the 1980 music, and that sort of had a few cheesy tracks, but you also had some deep tracks as well. But come 1981, it all went deep when it came to the the type of sound I mentioned, like just now, with that deep quality sound that they put in the music, like they did in the 70s. 82 was less deep, but you still had tracks that were sort of made in a quality standard way. Then 1983, for example, now that's what I call Music 1, the original 1983 album. Pretty much every track on there's a good track, so if you work that album out, that gives you an idea, which was a bit like 1981 basically. Right through the 80s, right up until the mid 80s, it was sort of just good music. Sort of, you did have a lot of other stuff though, but it was sort of, people had their choice, you know, it wasn't aimed for one type of person or whatever. So if someone wanted the more happier music, they could have the happier music, or if people wanted the other type of music, they'd get the other type of music. So you like had the alternative stuff as well. So there's a lot, but a lot of the stuff I remember hearing was very deep and quality, which is how I like my music. So that was all good. Obviously you had the Eurohouse scene coming in 85ish, 84ish, and obviously, but I've already mentioned all this sort of stuff. Let's just go into the how sexual that decade is. The 70s and 80s weren't really sexual decades, and nor was the beginning part of the 1990s. There's a 1992 was a sort of 91 and 92. I do remember 91. There was, you had I Want to Sex You Up by Salt and Pepper, and Let's Talk About Sex or whatever, and if you had, I think it's Jason Donovan and stuff like that. The modern version of Dizzy that came out in the 60s, I can't remember who done it. Dizzy, my head is spinning like a whirlpool, it never ends. But you also had quite a lot of cheesy stuff. So 91, yeah, 92. Sort of 92 was Cookie Jar Records, rave scene, commercial tracks, sort of sexualish. It wasn't really until about 1993, the beginning of 1993 and 94, that it went back down to deep. Then 95 it came back out again, but you still had the producers going into the same way until the Aim and Break was banned, sampling from other people's music. Sorry. All in all, it's split up in the 90s. It wasn't really that sexual, but you had some reggae stuff in 1994 and jungle stuff in 94 that hit mainstream. But sort of, if you really were to say it was a sexual decade, you'd probably say it was, but not until about the year 1995 onwards for the rest of that time, because all the club tracks were sexual as well, like the late 90s, even though they were sort of made in a sort of quality sort of way. So the 1920s was a sexual decade, the 10s and the 30s. The 60s was a sexual decade, and half a decade in the 90s, which is after 1995. Then obviously when you hit the 2000s, say the year 2000, from that time right through to now, you had a lot of hip hop come out and the hard style, but it's all sex musical. There's a lot of sexual stuff that's being introduced into music. People were saying that it's being introduced in the mid-90s, saying that it's a lot more sexual and they shouldn't be doing it. Well, that's nothing compared to today. They sort of even give the swearing in today's music. So today's music, if you say the year 2000 onwards, it's a very sexual. So the decades you want to look at for if music's sexual is the 1920s. That could have been the 1910s and 30s. If it's not sexual as such, I don't know if it's hard to say when it comes to that specific. When it came to the ballroom and jazz stuff of the 1910s, 20s and 30s, I think it's more of a sort of happy sounding music rather than sexual. And then obviously the 60s was sexual. Then from 1995 onwards, you didn't really have any sexual stuff in the 70s and 80s. Not what I've heard anyway. I mean, it could be different. Other people have different tastes in music, different styles. It could be different, but to my overall, what I've heard in my lifetime, I wouldn't say that those decades were sexual. Let's look at the old school jungle scene, for example. There's only 3 sexual music tracks that I know that are old school jungle tracks out of all the hundreds of jungle tracks that I've heard in the past. And they are, I think it's T-Power, Hard Feelings, which is a track that says I really want to put you on, or something like that. The other one is what's the other one? Out of the Underground stuff I'm talking about, or to some extent the deeper stuff, not the commercial stuff, or just because you have Baby D, but that's sort of more rave than jungle. And Baby D came out before jungle. Well, it used a jungle break, but it's actually older than jungle. So sort of Baby D, Let Me Be Your Fantasy, was made in late 1992, released in 93. But how sexual tracks are in the old school jungle scene as the underground stuff goes, there's literally none. Maybe the House Crew, Superhero My Night. Trying to think of another one. You've got T-Power, I think it's Hard Feelings or Only You, I can't remember. Whatever those sexual tracks are that they released that are kind of underground sounding, they'd all be on Jungle Mania 2. There is no other sexual track they've released in the old school underground jungle scene apart from on that album. Maybe you've got I Need Some Lovin' by More Rockers on Jungle Mania 3. But when it comes to sexual tracks, jungle's probably the category that's the worstest category for sexual music, because there's nothing at all in the sexuality suggestion when it comes to the jungle scene. When it comes to the techno scene, it's a bit different because it's like pumping for joy music and they make orgasm noises or whatever, including the very old stuff. But when it comes to jungle, there's literally a sex-free zone music genre when it comes to the underground stuff. But anyway, so from 95 onwards it was sexual. So basically from 1995 onwards to current day, this is basically sexual music. Taking away the 60s decade and possibly the 20s. I don't know the names of the tracks, of the jazz tracks or the ballroom tracks of the 20s and the 30s and the 10s, but it'd be the 10s, 20s, 30s, the 1960s, and from 1995 to current day, which would be the sexualist music years. I mean, all this hip hop is sexual music, by the way, so, and good life sounding. So a lot of the older music, when it comes to the darker music, the classical music, you'll find that again, that's another genre where you don't get sexual tracks. I can give you the genres if you want of the music that's not sexual. So the least sexual music genres on the planet would be Reiki, meditation and New Age, dark classical and dark ambient. They're just, people get confused on what dark classical or dark ambient is. Dark classical is basically a sort of darker sound of classical music, or with a more sort of more power to the sound in the tracks, with a bit of depth. Dark ambient and deep ambient can work in two ways, because you've got electronica dark ambient and deep ambient, and you've also got classical dark ambient and deep ambient. The classical deep or dark ambient would be a bit like the creepy, eerie sounding music you get in a black and white film. You know, that really sort of humming, low down drone in the background. That would be known as dark or deep ambient. In electronica, it'd be like this sort of a bit more electronical sounding, like maybe in a space movie that's got a lot of low sounds in it, or a documentary of a serious program or conspiracy. That'd be the electronica side of dark ambient. And obviously there's definitely no sexual music when it comes to that. So let's get with some other genres that are the least sexual out of all music, shall we? Which are the ones that I've already mentioned. So obviously the least sexual music categories, as I mentioned, are dark ambient, dark classical, meditation, Reiki, New Age, old school jungle. You don't have, as I mentioned like just now, old school jungles, one of the only electronica music genres that's got a load of drum beats in it and heavy bass line, and it's probably the only genre that's not sexual out of all electronica, in fact. Like I said, you had a few tracks, but most of those would have been on Jungle Mania too. All the underground stuff, literally there's no sexual tracks whatsoever. The year before, however, when it comes to the 1992 stuff, when you had the Shaman, Prodigy and all the rest of it, and you had these like girly squeaky voices in the music and spinny sounds and dub plates, you know, or scratching or whatever, then that would be a slightly different. But when you hit the technological, deep, heavyweight stuff and dark sorrow sounding tunes of the 1993 and 1994 area, then obviously when it came to the jungle scene, there's literally no sexual tracks at all. When it comes to underground techno of the 1990s, in the sort of same time period, maybe just a bit before, it's much the same, but because it's got a beat to it, that rhythmic beat, they introduced sexuality into the situation of techno music. So it was a bit more it had more go for it. And then obviously when it came to the happy hardcore stuff, that was very sexual, unfortunately. But I've never liked the shit anyway, because it's a load of crap. So far the least sexual music genres I mentioned are dark ambient, dark classical, Reiki, meditation, new age, old school jungle. You'd probably have to go with old school techno, although there's a lot of sexual stuff that was being involved in techno music in the early 90s. You've got to think there's a lot of underground techno where there's literally nothing like that in it at all. So I'd probably have to say techno. So a lot of it appears to me the lower the music, the less sexual it is. So rather than going through genres trying to fight which ones are against you with or which ones aren't, or sexuality or whatever, then obviously the lower the music, the less sexual it is, basically. That's the best way to describe it. It doesn't always appear to be the case when it came to the underground techno scene of the 1990s, because there's some really dark, moody tracks that came out that was sort of very sorrow back in that time. But the majority of what I'm saying, the lower the music, the deeper the music, the more technological sounding it is, or the more mystical it sounds, then that's the likelihood of where it's not going to be sexual. So we go to classical tracks, for example. Aphex Twin, Ichtedral, Philip Glass orchestration is a sort of deep, mystical, classical track with a dark edge. I'm not quite sure how you pronounce this, but I think it's Prokofy or Prokofy. Dance of the Nights. Well, again, that would be a deep track. Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy, classical, that would be another deep track. But with sort of a deep, but with a dark edge to it. The darker stuff would be more, like I was saying, more the I don't know any tracks actually, to be fair. Maybe The Omen, Jerry Goldsmith, The Omen Suit. That would be an example of dark classical. Or the rushing sound of Clint Mansell, Requiem for a Dream, or Requiem for a Tower, Lux Eterna, Two Towers mix or something like that, which is but then again that's more deep than dark. And obviously you have other tracks as well, such as Pachelbel Canon, which to sort of be a sort of soulful deep when it comes to the classical scene. So the lower the music, the less sexual it is. So when you go when people buy a hip hop CD and listen to the latest hip hop track, or go into the shop to buy the latest, now that's what I call music, you'll find that when it comes to hip hop or rap, it's very sexual, and the same with pop music, and the same with any club music. Music's different today, it's changed. And not many people, just supposing you not had sex in your whole life like myself, or sexuality goes against you or whatever, then it makes sense that you don't want to listen to good life, happy, jolly, sexual music anyway. And but unfortunately a lot of the more sorrow sounding music, or the music that's not that cheerful, people are putting it down as nutcase music or aggressive raving lunatic music. Well, that's not the case, because the stuff that they listen to doesn't have a calm chord to it. All the stuff that the people listen to out there has got to be this happy, jolly, light-headed type of style sounding music. They've taken away the sound in the music to replace it with voice or lyrics. They're trying to force people out of the musical sound, because the brain can work. It likes to read into the music and listen to music with some form of pleasure to it, or where you can read in it telepathically. Some people can read into music telepathically, which is how the music, how they make music, especially when it came to the classical music, and when it came to the underground jungle tracks of 1994, they were putting a lot of telepathy in that as well, especially in the rarer tracks, and like the rare groove tracks or the breakdown tracks of that specific year. maybe 1993. I say 1994, but a lot of these tracks that were so-called made in 1994, or were released, released in 1994, were actually made in 1993. I mean, let's look at Pesce World of Music by on Infrared Records. The record was released in 1994, but it was actually made in early 1993. I spoke to Baby Kane, who's a producer in Old School Rave and Jungle. He did a track called Strange Greetings. That was actually made in 1992. Very early part of 1992, I think. Or late 92, I can't remember. Just got to stop this a minute because there's a boat. I want to see what's going on. So, you know, it's like that. I think it was, I'm trying to think where it was early or whether it's late 92. I spoke to Baby Kane. He actually told me when that specific track was made. I think he said it was early 92, but it could have been late 92. The Lenny D Ice, We Are IE, that was made in the tail end of 1989, but it didn't get released until 1991, though it was heard of in 1990. That was known as the first jungle track ever made, but some think that Mantronic's King of the Beats could have been before that, but nobody's actually 100% sure, and there's a couple of people that are. But whatever it is, old school jungle is a very, very old category of music now. So it's been on, trying to work out how many years it's been here. Well over 30 years. Old school jungle's been around well over 30 years. So it's definitely one of the older. Jungle came in before this hard techno stuff, you know, the modern techno. I mean, it came out before happy hardcore even. You know, it's you had the normal techno, you know, the alternative underground techno, like, you know, but out of the sort of more faster stuff, then yeah, jungle came out well before that as well. Because people's minds are different today, and because the government are using the media, using radio stations to give out information or making suggestions from the media, it's causing a lot of people to come out of all these sorts of sorrow or soulful types of music genres. Many people are being forced into the happy good life sexual music scene. So let's start with the classical music scene first, shall we? A lot of the stuff, when they were putting stuff out on record, nearly every track on a record would be decent music. You would not get that today. They've stopped doing that completely. When CDs came in, you get the occasional one track on the CD, maybe two tracks that are good, and the rare album where you get quite a few tracks that are good in the early 90s or whatever, mid 90s, but then they stopped doing that. Now you can't get a 6 CD pack with only one good track on it and the rest a load of crap. But nowadays you can't even get that. They're trying to cause people to listen to lighter headed music, but it doesn't appear to be. All the music today is not sound based anymore, because it wakes up the third eye, you see. That's the problem with sound based music. It wakes up the third eye, and your mind has the ability to think or meditate or work, because that's how the human brain works. And the government are trying to close that off, so they're trying to replace it with lyrical sounding music, hip hop, a lot of this rock or progressive rock. I mean, I don't like criticising what people listen to, but it's different, if you get what I'm saying. It's people listen to music in different ways, and that's how people enjoy music. Some people listen to it telepathically. Some people listen to it because they want to listen to what the words say. This is why people can take MCs or not MCs. Some people love MCs and some people hate MCs. Again, it's people's preference. If they like musical sound, then they're going to hate MCs. But if they like a lot of lyrics in their music instead, they're going to love MCs. And hip-hop's got a lot of lyrics in it, so you can see what they're trying to do there, trying to create music which is very up with the times, and it's like trap music, and they're changing the styles as well. Futuristic back in the 90s would be like space age music that sounds very eerie or mystical or whatever. Today it'd be like a trap record where it sounds like an industrial track from, you know, that sounds like it's modernised from a smartphone shop. You know, it's got that sort of sound where it's like different. It's different. It's not like a futuristic. It's a different type of modern. People get confused by different music genres as well because of how much they changed. Most people, modern people, especially who have been born in the last 40 years, are not going to have a clue what the difference is between the classical we have today or the classical that you had before that time. Because going back 40 years or before ago, there might have been presses where they've had some modern stuff on there, but a lot of it would be old stuff that's brought back. Classical is actually quite a low down genre, or it's supposed to be. It's only because these new cartoon shows or these new cartoons that they're making new classical music for kids that's causing classical to lose its originality to it. And also they're trying to make it sound like people are perverts if they listen to classical music, because they're changing all the classical styles into kids' soundtrack CDs. So if a man in his 70s or 80s likes classical music, people are going to insult that person as a sick cunt or a paedophile or a child rapist, because they're changing the music of the modern stuff. And the likelihood is that person who's 70 or 80 years of age only likes this, what I'm mentioning now, that the proper dark classical stuff that's very moody or very low down as a possibility. It's the same with the old school jungle scene. Most people don't have a clue what the underground jungle scene is of the 90s, like the 1993 or the 1994 stuff. They've only heard of the jump up stuff, the liquid stuff, the modern stuff. Obviously they use some form of the aim and break in modern stuff in some tracks, but it's a different layout altogether. The sound's different, the bass line's different. In jungle it's more of a vibraty sort of heavy bass, like a vibraty shaking bass, whereas like a computer bass, computerized distorted bass in modern jungle. And also the drum beats are more of a hitting in the modern jungle. It's got more punch to it, more of a kick to it. It's got more of an aggressive pattern or an aggressive sound to it, and it's got more of more rage to it, more possibly progressive rock samples or heavy metal influences in modern jungle, where the old school jungle would be the complete opposite. It'd be sort of mellow samples, new age samples, music from films or dark ambient, or taking even dark classical samples in it or whatever. It's much different. The layout, the sound patterns, the style, and also it's heavy, so it's heavy in a different form, drum and bass. So modern drum and bass jungle is different. It's heavy, it's heavier than the old school jungle, but it's in a different form. It's in a modern sounding way. With the old school jungle sound, it's got that old sound to it. It's got more of a, it's got stronger sound to it. It's got lower sound to it. It's chilled back. Old school jungle is a very chilled back type of genre. It's extremely deep, quite mystical, and quite sorrow. Where the modern jungle from 1996, 97 onwards is completely the opposite. So, you know, worth mentioning. I could go into a long story about it, but I can't think what to say. The sort of samples you get in trap, where it's like wobble bass, or it's different hip hop samples, ragga samples, but it's all jolly, cheerful, sexual sort of motive drum and bass today. It's not the same as the original old school jungle layout, but it was only in that 2-year period where they were making it in that certain way. 1993 and 1994. Obviously in 1995 it became a bit more lighter and they started adding reggae scenes in it, or ragga samples or whatever. We were doing it in 94, but in 1995 you still had that jungle touch to it. You had dread bass clones rather than deep bass lines, but it still wasn't to a point where you messed up the scene. It was 96, but even then, good looking records were producing stuff that was old school, but just making some changes with new age samples or whatever, and jazz, soulful jazz samples or whatever. I'll give you an example of a track from about 1997. You can check it out. It's called Future Bound Sorrow. And obviously you've got stuff like Source Direct, I think it's Secret Liaison, or Artem, or Liaison Fields, one or two, Artemis and Poseidon, a track called Tensions of the Sea on Good Looking Records. But they were a big company, so they could afford to pay for the samples if they used any, and I don't think they really used any in that time period. I think it's all sort of newly made stuff, but they were producing it and they're making it sound a bit fresher, because a lot of the underground old school jungle of the 90s is all sort of slowed down sounds, or sounds that sound really deep or moody. But anyway, I'll leave it there on that subject.